I am so excited to be with all of you today. So let's go ahead and get started by having everyone introduce themselves. We can start with Eli and go away.
Perfect. Is this on? Okay. Hi, my name is Eli. I'm 23 years old. I am a content creator and writer. I live here in New York, and I'm actually an alum of her campus chapter at the University of Michigan. I was a writer for a year, and then I was the editor-in-chief for 2 years, so I'm very familiar with the brand and very excited to be here.
Amazing. And where can they find you on social media?
My Instagram is just first and last name with a little dot between, and that's Eli Rallo. And then my TikTok is @thejar, and jar has 2 R's.
Amazing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Makita Johns. I'm a social media manager at Bumble. I'm 24 years old. My pronouns are she, her, and I live in Austin, Texas. And I was actually a journalism major in college, and I love some Her campus. And also, everyone looks amazing. I love all the colors. Oh, and you can find me on social media at The Sassy Northerner on Instagram and TikTok.
Hi, everyone. You guys are working, so hopefully I'm loud enough. Oh, here. Hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea. I live in New York, Brooklyn. By day, I work as a fashion editor at Pop Sugar, and the rest of the time, I'm doing all things NYCX clothes. We create content, we have a studio, we do a bunch of different things, and you can find me at NYCX clothes everywhere.
Amazing. Well, welcome. So I wanted to do a quick audience poll. So by a show of hands, how many of you have ever thought about what it's like to be an influencer or to work in the influencer marketing industry? Okay. Amazing, because today we are here to provide the State of the Union on all things influencer marketing and content creation, discussing the huge recent shifts which have changed the way that we define, participate, and pursue the idea of being an influencer. So, I want to start with a question to level set for all of us here. How do you define yourself? As an influencer, a creator, neither, or both? And we can start with you, Chelsea, and then work our way around.
Still not working. I love that question because I feel like the term influencer gets a bad rep these days, but I feel like we're so much more than just like people who create content. Personally, and I touched on that a little bit, we create events for a community. We also consult with brands on like how to make their influencer campaigns more diverse. So I like to think that someone with influence on certain things because, we're doing the work, but the day-to-day has a lot to do with creating content. So it's a little bit of everything, I would say.
I would define myself as a woman of influence. So I'm not a content creator, but I'm curating content about my daily life to my friends. And I think all my friends and family will buy anything that I recommend.
I think that makes you an influencer, actually.
Okay, so now I'm an influencer. Thank you.
I kind of agree the term influencer has quite the, I would say, negative or bad rep these days. I prefer content creator. I think something that's so interesting for me is that I never wished for this, and I'm really glad that my calling was right around the corner when I didn't know it would be. But I never wanted to be an influencer, and I think I kind of have settled in the mindset that I never want to influence anyone to do anything other than to just feel good about themselves. And if that sometimes means they want to buy a product because I used it and it made me feel good about myself, then so be it. But I hope to never influence anyone to really do much other than just maybe feel a little better about themselves or have a slightly brighter day than maybe they did before. So content creator for me, I think.
Okay, love that. So Eli, you have obviously had an incredible last few years with your viral success on TikTok, as well in your writing career. So when did you start as a creator, and what has that journey been like for you?
That's a good question. I think I've been now doing TikTok for 2 years and a month. I've only been doing it full time for about 7 months. So coming up on my first year anniversary of doing it full time. But I went randomly viral during the pandemic. I had one of those lovely pandemic success stories of TikTok, which I think many, if not most, of like the big TikTokers that people follow today have a very similar sort of journey in that way of random virality during the pandemic when there was not much else to do. And I was already committed to attending Columbia's journalism program because I wanted to be a journalist. And I think a lot of what I was doing at the time, whether or not I knew it, was technically creating content. So I went to journalism school and I graduated in May of 2021. I had about half the followers that I do now a year ago. And I went and worked in journalism for 6 months. And then I think, again, like everything was around the corner when I didn't expect it. I like unexpectedly left my full-time job and signed with a management company. And like that month, things like took a crazy turn in terms of like my TikTok and my Instagram. And then eventually my agents reached out to me about putting together a book proposal, and we signed a book deal last month. So it's definitely, thank you. It was definitely like the most, if not the number one most unexpected thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And I think like I just have to like proceed with gratitude because it is very uncharted and strange, but I feel very lucky.
Yes, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So was the goal to always be a creator, or was it always to pivot to something else?
Yeah, I think, like I said before, I never really thought that I would want to be a content creator or influencer. I've always loved social media for a similar reason that I love theater, that I love reading, and that I love journalism, is because you have like a captive audience and the opportunity to open a dialogue with so many different people, which I just think is incredible. And when I studied theater, like my favorite thing about it was like putting on a show and then people leaving the theater to talk about it together. And they didn't even have to like it. Just having that little like spark for dialogue and community was so special to me. And so I think, you know, this makes a lot of sense when I reflect on my trajectory, but I think the main goal was to always be a writer. I didn't know that I would be like actually writing a book at the age of 23, but you just have to take things as they come, I suppose. So I suppose like the goal was always to pivot, but I guess my dream is like something I didn't even know existed because I'm living it.
That's amazing, and I'm sure that that is like super inspiring to everyone in the audience. Okay, so Makita, let's set the scene. How would you describe the shift of the creator landscape from 2019 to now?
I think that's an amazing question. And as everyone probably knows, our favorite app, TikTok, that probably is one of the ones that has transcended the landscape the most. I think what I'm realizing now and what we realize as a brand is authenticity, which I'm sure we've talked about all day today and it's going to be talked about, but it's the most important. Bumble as a brand is all about building meaningful connections and letting everyone be their true and authentic selves. So we look for creators that are authentic and build a community. Like every day you go on Instagram and you'll see Ask Me Anything, and that's because the creators you're following want to hear from you. They're your friends. They're building a community.
Amazing. So how would you say from like a brand perspective that has influenced your strategy at Bumble?
It's influenced our strategy by making sure the people we work with are focused on their community, because community is the most important. Creators that want to foster that relationship with their audience are the ones we seek out, because those are the ones that are true and authentic and believable. You want to believe the person you're following. You want to think of them as a friend. They're influencing you because they're inspiring you to be your best self.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great pivot to you, Chelsea. So you have built such a highly engaged community, and your feed is absolutely stunning. How would you describe the way that influencing and the way that people have connected with your audience has changed in the past couple of years since the pandemic?
I feel like, going back to what Makita said, like people love just like the real, that they can still talk to you, and it's not just like these photos that, you know, once you interact with them, it feels like that's the only way that you can have a connection to that person. So for example, with stories, which I feel like predates TikTok, obviously like people always had this like behind the scenes look at what my day-to-day looks like. And I've always been honest about straddling both like corporate and like creating. So I think that showing that side of me, showing them that it's not always glamorous, and even showing them sometimes how like Chris and I will like change in the middle of the streets. Like, so my sister and I, we do it together. She's why I say Chris, but we'll like change in the middle of the street sometimes to like change, and then it ends up in this like glamorous photo shoot that you guys have no idea like all it took to get there. So I think people always appreciate like just the realness, the fact that you can feel approachable, but also still like build like this aspirational like editorial that we create. And I think TikTok, which we recently started experimenting with, has just made us feel a lot less pressured to just like always look a certain way and to like show more of our personality. So I'm kind of enjoying being more chill about content.
Yes, I love that. So we've already talked a lot about authenticity and just realness. What do we think that Gen Z has had to do with this shift? And I'd love to hear from all of you. If you want to start, Eli.
Sure. I think our generation, and I say ours because I'm definitely a part of Gen Z, I think there's been a really special opportunity with the way that we engage with one another. I think it's obviously also been influenced by the pandemic because a lot of us were in really big times of pivotal change or transition when all of that happened. But I think the way that we have like used TikTok specifically as a hotbed to talk about things that people don't generally talk about, or make the taboo less taboo, or elevate stories and voices and identities that just simply didn't have the space before. I think that's really special, and I think that that's all been the energy of Gen Z, basically. And I think that this is just the beginning. I don't know what will be next, but I think TikTok is like a trampoline and we're gonna spring off of it. And I'm really excited to see what our generation can accomplish, because I think I see a lot of hope in just the way that our generation organizes and uses their voices. It's really special, and I think we can give them a pat on the back for that so far.
Yes, amazing.
I agree with a lot of what Eli said. I think Gen Z doesn't take any shit, and I think they know what they want, and they're gonna ask for it. And especially with the pandemic, like we said, we're on TikTok and we're seeing so many different generations, which is a first and people are always like, what happened to the tween years? Well, back then, social media wasn't as accessible to the younger generation. So now Gen Z realizes their worth and knows what they want, and they're able to stand up for themselves and make doctor's appointments on their own and just really go after that.
And I feel like it's changed the influencer space as a result, because before, I don't think someone taking a stance like an influencer was as like accepted as it was before, as it is now. Because I think there was a time when, you know, we wondered if like being vocal about like social justice would like change the way we work with brands, or like if brands would start alienating us. But then I found that they actually do like that. So because of Gen Z, I think they played a big role in like bringing these issues to the fore. We now, you know, have a huge conversation going around sustainability, around the racial reckoning that happened in 2020, and I love it here.
Yes, I love it as well. So how is the way that creators and brands work together evolving?
And I love that question, because I feel like we're watching that right now, and it's sort of been a long time coming, whereas now brands are not just looking to partner with you on a couple Instagram or TikTok posts. Like they also want to know, you know, do you host events, for example? Like they try to leverage other aspects of like your platform and make sure, so, you know, Eli loves to write. Maybe there's like an opportunity to like contribute an article on their blog and things like that. So I'm seeing more and more like multi-dimensional partnerships, not just photo focus, and the relationship continues way beyond the post. But also, a lot of the clients that we've had on the creator side at NYCXOs have translated into people that we now have as clients on our agency side. And so it shows that brands are actually willing to work with you and tap into your expertise, because who better than us to kind of like tell them how to appeal to creators and like to Gen Z. So it's been really exciting to see that change.
Definitely.
Go ahead. No, you go.
I absolutely agree. I'll keep it short. But from like specifically a creator standpoint, even I've noticed in the past 2 years, the way that brands have altered the way that they're building relationships to us. I think that brands saw a desire on our end, which we've been speaking about, to be more long-term, more authentic, to build that deeper relationship, and for it to cut below just a set of Instagram stories and become something like much bigger and also much more authentic to the creator, because it's more effective that way for their own marketing, and it's a win-win for both. I've definitely noticed, like, even since I started, the way that I am working with brands really has evolved, and I'm so lucky that I get to work exclusively with brands that I personally use and would 100, if not 1,000% spend my own money on. And that's something that creators couldn't really say before. They were like just taking whatever they got. And now, it's become very like personal, which I love.
Yeah, I agree. And from the brand perspective, once we work with someone, you're in our community, you're in our hive, and we care about you. We want to see you succeed. We want to see you thrive. And our brand specifically is focused on just uplifting the people we work with.
I love that. And I know we were talking about this backstage, but just on the topic of like authenticity and like partnering with brands that you actually believe in, I was just kind of rewinding to a few years ago when like every creator was partnering with like the flat tummy teas and like the teeth whitening. So yeah, there's been such a huge shift. Makita, Bumble is a really mission-driven company. How have you as a brand seen the disparities between influencers and opportunities available to them change? And how has that affected your approach working with influencers?
I think Bumble's a special place where we're built on our mission and women first. And we know that the world is a melting pot of people. So we work with people that they can see themselves reflected, not only on our app, but in the people we collaborate with. So it's definitely such an amazing thing to see. And interesting that it took a while for other people to jump on board, but I'm glad to say that I've been a part of a company that's always put the people at the forefront and people of all different backgrounds.
Amazing. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the present and the past, so to wrap this conversation up, let's look forward. What are your predictions for the future of the influencer and content creation landscape? Eli, you can go first.
Wow, it's a big question. I don't know for sure, and I don't think any of us know for sure, but I touched on this when we were speaking as a group the other day, but I'm sure most, if not all of you, are familiar with Emma Chamberlain. On her recent podcast said, the influencer's dead, it's oversaturated, there's too many people. And a lot of people were quick to just latch onto her word because I love Emma Chamberlain, no tea, no shade. So yes, I love a lot of the things that she says, but I think that there was this, hysteria all of a sudden, like, oh my God, influencing is over because this sweet 21-year-old white girl said it was. I think the difference is, and I saw a TikTok about this, so these aren't my own words, but it really opened my eyes, is that for white women and young white women and thin, pretty white women like Emma Chamberlain, the opportunity has always been available, so maybe it's over for her. But it's actually just opening the door for so many other people. It is and it's so special. Why would I walk through a door and let it close behind me? That's ridiculous. I'm gonna walk through the door and hold it open and be like, let's go, all of you, come on. That's what's changing. And especially if you are a white woman in this space, I implore you to do that as much as you can, because the only way that we can help elevate more voices is by literally elevating them. So I think the change is actually a really special one, and it's gonna be much bigger for many, many, many people who didn't have that opportunity.
Yes, love that. Makita?
Anyone can be an influencer, and it's what you influence people to do. So I think that the influencer industry is just going to grow. We're going to see more different types of people, and who knows, there will probably be another app that takes off.
And to add to that too, I feel like the relationship, as we touched on, like with brands has changed. So like now people can work with brands in so many different ways. They don't just have to create content. Like I think influencers are gonna grow to become more brand advocates since like long-term partnerships are a thing, and those relationships will eventually develop offline as well. Like it won't just be, we've heard of brands, for example, hiring influencers to become their creative directors. So I feel like there's gonna be more of that like integration into like their team and stuff like that. And I'm also personally curious about like the NFT space and where it's going right now. I feel like the conversation has started about creators having ownership of their own content instead of just, being at the mercy of like platforms that like give them whatever percentage to decide, which is usually like 1% or less. It's really interesting, and it's gonna democratize the space a bit more. So I'm excited and watching that.
Amazing. Well, it is certainly a very exciting time for the influencer and creator space. And that wraps up the conversation today. So let's give it up for our panelists one more time.